Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for joining our webinar today on creating a digital-first strategy for your institution. My name is Matt Phipps, and I am the CMO at Agent IQ, and this is a particularly exciting topic for us as we deliver a personal digital engagement platform for financial institutions that helps them be more efficient and personal in their engagement with their customers. So for this next hour, we have an expert panel of executives from our client BMO, formerly BMO Harris, which is a $168 billion institution out of Chicago, joining our very own COO, Soren Bested. Just a little bit of housekeeping as you join in here. As per usual, all attendees, you are automatically muted when you join, but we highly encourage questions throughout our time here. We want this webinar to be informative and helpful for you, so please ask the questions in the chat. I will keep an eye out for those, and we will answer the best we can throughout our conversation here today. To moderate this high-powered panel is President of Bank Director Magazine and my friend, Michelle King. Michelle, thank you. Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Excellent. Thank you for being here today. I am going to hand it over to you. I'm going to turn off my camera and let you introduce our panel and get all the good fun started here today, okay?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with this panel. I'm excited for the conversation that we're going to have. So thank you so much, the Agent IQ, for having me today. Really looking forward to this morning. So as Matt said, Michelle King, President of Bank Director. I want to introduce our panel. Brianna is the Managing Director and Project Leader for U.S. Digital Service at BMO. She is a visionary and strategic thought leader. She has a passion for driving BMO's delivery of enhanced digital money movement platform with account management features to its customers by leading and supporting a team of bank technologists to build a top-tier digital banking platform. So welcome, Brianna.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Kostov is the lead technology officer for digital U.S. online and mobile banking at BMO. He is committed to driving up customer satisfaction and continuous improvement of the BMO digital experience. With a reputation as a change agent, Kost has led the delivery of multiple strategic initiatives, including building the chat and chatbot capability in partnership with Agent IQ. So welcome, Kost.
Thank you.
And last but not least, I've got Soren. He is the Chief Operating Officer of the San Francisco-based Agent IQ, a provider of digital customer engagement solutions, specializing in making financial services more personal. In his role as Chief Operating Officer, Soren oversees the operational and administrative functions of Agent IQ while implementing enhanced business strategies that align with both the short and long-term goals of the company. So Soren, I'm so glad. Thank you again for having me moderate this wonderful panel. I'm so excited to be participating. So let's get started, shall we? BMO historically, Brianna, has been conservative to adopt new technologies, like most banks, right? Most financial institutions and credit unions across the country. You're greatly, though, focused in enhancing and advancing this digital customer experience by changing this old position. Can you dive a little deeper into what you all are looking at? Why are you taking this digital first strategy? What does that mean to you and the BMO team?
Sure. Thank you for that, Michelle. You're right. We've not ever been on the leading edge, but that doesn't mean we can't make a concerted effort in enhancing our functionality for our customers. For us, a digital first model is critical as we shift to our next phase in how we show up for our customers. And it's digitizing across the bank. It's not just digital as a channel. It's the way we operate in every part of our business, driving efficiency, freeing up more human capital, and really doing what we do best for the customers, which is giving great advice and a great experience. So when we lead with a digital first mindset, it's really around simplifying our business, delivering a best-in-class customer experience, and adapting new ways of working.
And so I should have said Brianna is leading the business initiative and Kost is leading the technology to make this all happen. So that's the go-between for this conversation. Want to add color there. and recognize the fact that, BMO is the 8th largest bank in assets. So this being a strategic shift for them, I think is interesting in this day and time. So Brianna, expanding a little bit more, what do you see as the difference between a digital first strategy and a customer first strategy? Can you define that for our audience?
So I can, but I will be very upfront that for me in my role, they're very much the same. So we try very hard to lead with a customer first approach when we're driving digital solutions for our customers. If we step outside the purely digital lens, it's looking at how we potentially take a back office process and automate it, leverage the technology, the insights with the lessons that we've learned in digital and applying that across the board. So it's automating things, it's removing friction from a interaction that you may have in branch. It's looking at where we can partner with different companies to really enhance technology and servicing experiences for folks. And so it is really driving automation and efficiency plays when it comes to how we're servicing our customers.
So then can we talk a little bit about how do you bridge that gap between what your role is at BMO and Costa's role at BMO? So if you've got this business initiative strategy, he's kind of this tech focused. How do you come to agreement there? What does that look like?
Teamwork makes the dream work on this one, really. It's two halves of the same coin. So we do a lot of the connection between what the business objectives are across different lines of businesses, across different customer segments, and really partnering with Cost and team on how we deliver that to our customers around what the best solution is. What kind of technology do we need to have in place in order to execute the dreams and the business initiatives that we are seeing across the bank? So we spend a lot of time thinking through the connection points, the objectives, the initial stories, how we want it to function and feel for the customers around the experience, and then very much partner with Cause at how we get it done.
And so why do you think that's important? This embracing this strategy is important now, not only for BMO, but for all of the FIs listening in this morning?
Well, the cost of doing business only gets more expensive every day. You have customers, particularly in this time frame, they want to have a sense of knowledge and security that you're taking care of their needs on a quick, a seamless and integrated way. Security and understanding that you are taking care of them is paramount. And when you're looking at the industry, us as banks or any industry is really, you're being held against a standard that is much broader than your own industry, right? Like I am being compared on a regular basis with my app versus what Netflix is able to do or what Google is able to do. And they have a whole different way of approaching technology, much more funding, different approach than what we do as a bank. But that doesn't mean that we can slack in terms of our experience or our expectations that we're driving for customers, because the customer at the end of the day, they're used to being able to get things more real time and in a method that makes sense for them. And so you have to be able to show up with them in meeting those expectations. And it's only going to become more cumbersome as things go if you're lagging in terms of where you're able to show up for your customers with technology.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. So Cost, with you overseeing this technology strategic initiatives there, can you kind of set the stage for the group? Like, what has BMO's historical stance been on embracing new technology? What does that look like for you all internally?
So BMO has been very open to innovative ideas and to embrace newer technologies, newer products. And year on year, we have been making significant investments around it. We have different kind of budgets for different kind of IT requirements. For instance, we like closely collaborate with Brianna for bringing in like new capabilities for our customers, which are on like newer technology stack. We like thrive to keep our technology stack modern so that it doesn't like has any security flaws and we keep it up to date like from fraud perspective that like our application can detect fraud uh, like on a real-time basis. So different aspects from like different use cases are thought through, and the technology team like delivers all those different capabilities and like provide the best to our customers with a digital first mindset.
Yeah, so you kind of jumped the hurdle then, since you embrace a new technology, you're open to those ideas from, I would say, the top down. You know, I speak with a lot of bank CEOs, and they talk about the cultural shift internally to embrace these new strategies, to embrace new technology, and how they're hiring the right talent to actually achieve these goals. So I'd like for each of you, Kos, if you want to start, like, talk about some of maybe the internal challenges that maybe you've had to overcome to solve for this, because it's one thing to say, yes, we embrace new strategy, we embrace new technology. It's another thing to get your team to get behind it. So can you talk about yours, and then Brianna, I'll get your thoughts on that as well.
Sure. So very good question. There are a lot of like internal challenges which we face, and all for good reasons, to implement a newer technology. So whenever we are picking up like a newer technology and we want to integrate, we look at it from like security point of view, that we are not adopting something which is vulnerable and which can cause like issues for our client. So we go through like extensive risk review for the product, making sure that it complies with all BMO security standards. And we collaborate like with the info security or the cyber security teams to make sure that we have reviewed in depth each and every cyber aspect of the technology. Those are, I believe, two big hurdles which like we face for adopting any newer technology.
So I would layer that in, actually, Michelle. For our side, you know, once we actually deem that we can bring new technology in for our customers and our clients, it starts first with the ask, right? Is this going to meet a business need, a client need, a customer need? Does the technology make sense? Because honestly, if it's not needed by our customers, there's no real sense in building a lot of what technology people are putting out there. So it's assessing that customer need first and foremost, making sure that it aligns with our objectives, and then the burden or the perk actually of being in digital is we tend to be the change agents that come in and help smooth the change curve out for a lot of our internal clients as well as our external customers. You're talking about what kind of training do we need to provide to our contact center and to our branch associates? How are we engaging them early and often in the technology journey so that they know when this is coming up and they can better communicate it out to the customers? What kind of communications and training do we need to provide our customers themselves so that we are helping them through that change curve? It's a constant battle for us to figure out the right mix between driving innovation and putting a lot of technology out there with how much change can a customer or a banker actually consume at once, right? And it is a delicate balance because you don't want to over introduce friction to their experience for the sake of launching something unique.
Right, right. So Soren, I hadn't planned on this, but we kind of went there from a technology perspective. Is there anything you'd like to add to that point? Things that you've seen in working with FIs, things that might help them, or maybe the texts that are on this webinar this morning, shed some light on that from your perspective, the challenges you've encountered?
Well, absolutely. And as you know, we have all been around this industry for some years. And One of the unique things that we experienced with BMO was, being the 8th largest bank in the US, we never had a we could build that in-house conversation. And that is a testament to the technology team, because that has historically been what we run into, that you come in and say, well, why can't we build that ourselves? We can do it better, faster, and so forth. We never had that conversation. I think a second thing that has been very apparent to us, because the due diligence process, of course, is quite rigorous. You would expect that from people. You would expect nothing less. But what has been unique is the team is acutely aware of contemporary designs and concepts. So it has been less of the classic due diligence. Do you have a delivery contract for diesel to your data center, which I still get asked about, but that's not a conversation we had with BMO. We have our technical team that is an advanced team talk to the BMO team, and it was very pragmatic. It was also not dogmatic, saying, well, this is how we have to do it. It was very sharp technical people that I could not follow in any way, having a conversation about how do we do this best for the customers? How do we create, always with that seamless sense of how do we optimize the experience from the customer? What does that mean from a technology perspective? What does InfoSec feel about that? Can we bring that together in a solution that meets all the requirements, but really is customer centric?
Yeah, no, I think that's really, really important, Soren. So backing up just a little bit, Brianna, how did you decide what technologies you're considering? What does that look like for BMO? I'll ask you, and then I'll toss it over to Koss as well, because I'm sure there's debate. Like, how do you choose? Like, I get that a lot. There's so many opportunities. How do you make that selection?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'm blessed with a really great technical set of partners that actually I'm pretty sure could build me almost anything we dream up. So it is a great burden to have, because there is that balance, right? And so one of the things that really I try to weigh in mind is this going to be something that we can wrap as a brand standard? Is this something that's going to help differentiate us, that we can actually do? It's very unique. And therefore, it makes sense for us to own and hold. Or is this something that is a tried and true and tested piece of functionality that has been done very well outside these walls, and we could leverage it as an accelerator, as opposed to something that requires us to have this tight grip? Sometimes not owning the control of some of those things actually makes it so that you are faster and you're leveraging the insights of a broader population. I think chat is a great one. In Agent IQ, it's a technology that candidly has been around in a while, but they took a unique spin on it that would have added a lot of scope and time to our delivery of it. Zelle is another piece of technology which we all leverage, and it's a very widely distributed piece of technology that honestly, it's not unique to most banks, right? And so, does it make sense to try to reinvent the wheel there?
So,
Koss, I don't know if you have a different idea.
No, so like moving further on what like Brianna explained, that once like a business case is determined and we like decide to move forward, then it is like a very rigorous process on the technology side to like choose a product. So we look at the current landscape, look at like what all different products are available within BMO, outside BMO. Then we do like a product overview analysis, looking at the product like from functional point of view, from like market size point of view, what is the demand of the product. We look at it like from pure architectural point of view. We look at it like from resiliency point of view, from like fraud point of view, from cybersecurity point of view. We look at it like from risk and compliance perspective, ease of maintenance, and then definitely the cost and time to market matters. And once a technology stack like goes through all those evaluation, then we like take a firm decision that this is exactly what suits our needs as a bank. And this is exactly what is going to help our customers on a day-to-day basis. And then we move forward with like that product.
So I've got a couple of questions that have come in around this, and I thought I probably would. I'm just going to kind of flow through them and make sure I position them in the right way. So the first is, did you look at what the competition was doing as you were making decisions? Yes. Yes.
We do. We do a competitor analysis, and we have like multiple different teams which are looking at it from multiple different like perspectives. And like I said, it's a combination of multiple different inputs which help us decide which product to choose.
Brianna, anything you want to add there?
No, I actually, I think Cause is right. We do look at other vendors, and I think actually maybe to weave in a little bit of what Caitlin had asked in the chat as well. We also go out and talk to my business counterparts, right? We had a number of conversations with our colleague in the contact centers and our colleagues in the branches, and even actually our line of business department heads around what was the needs that they were going to have for this, like the functionality we were exploring. What kind of expectations were they going to have? So really pulling in a comprehensive view of what we needed to do, and then weaving from all of that input, really breaking it down, because we work in Agile, like what's the MVP and what are the things that maybe come later, or what are the ones that aren't going to return quite the business value that we were expecting to get out of the product, and de-scoping those kind of items. So definitely pulled together our set of expectation across the bank, and then looked at which partners were going to be able to provide the technology we needed.
So let's go a little deeper there. Who are you bringing to the table to have the final decision? Who's a part of that decision-making process internally? I think that's important, because it may be hard to define. Probably not the same for every institution, but I think just again, from a BMO standpoint, who's at the table saying this is the direction we're going to go?
So for BMO, there is always the opportunity, regardless of which institution, for having 1,000 chefs in the kitchen, which makes for a very weird concoction at the end of the day. So pared it down quite a bit. And actually, at the end of the day, the decision really came down to myself and Cause, and then subsequently the leaders that we report into. And it was a combination of Cause and I aligning around what solution we wanted, how it meets the expectations we needed, where it fell short or didn't, and then proposed basically a summary that said, here's our suggested solution, here's where things fell short, and here's who we did not choose and why. And typically, as long as you have done the due diligence, you can get alignment at that level. And then I socialized back out on the business side where the decision was and what we were moving forward with, and Cause handled a lot of the communications back out on the technology side as well.
Cause, anything else to add to that from your perspective?
Well, Brianna covered it really well. So the product owner is like the final person who takes a call on the product along with the technology stakeholder, that this is the right product which we are picking up. Like I said, goes through like various filtering criterias, and like finally we arrive on a product. And then we have like a standard methodology within BMO through which we like communicate and we onboard the new product.
And then Brianna, we did have one question come in. Are you able to respond to that one? They were asking us specifically like who you're reporting into. Is that
sure?
Okay.
Yeah. So at BMO, we have two sides of the borders that we work across, the US and Canada. So I have a boss that I roll into, which is the CDO. He has accountability for both the US and the Canadian side of the border. So that's where I roll up into and we are specifically over the retail and wealth businesses, there's a separate segment for our counterparts on the commercial side. Because I know you're different, so do
Yes.
you want to?
Sure. So I report into head of US Digital, and we take care of all the uh, like retail customers on the US side, small business banking customers who use our platform, and wealth customers on the US side.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So moving on, I know there's a couple other questions, and I think I'm going to be able to answer those as we go through. How did you determine the priorities for these initiatives? So thinking about your market, a little bit different. You've got the Canadian, US markets that you're servicing. How did you determine priorities for these initiatives specifically? And then is there inorganic growth, that is impacted by these decisions?
So it is actually both ways. Inorganic growth is impacted, as well as some of these decisions come because of inorganic growth. So when you are like thinking of inorganic growth, it is like you increasing your customer base significantly over a very short period of time, right? And at that point of in time, technology needs to evaluate that uh, will our application still be resilient? Does our application offers everything which is needed for this new set of customer base based on their geography, based on their banking needs, uh, and it drives a lot of these decisions. For instance, we all know that BMO is currently going through inorganic growth, and that was like one of the primary reasons uh, because of which we wanted to build another like communication channel for the digital online mobile app, so that customers can talk to their choice of bankers at any point in time, being like any part of the world at their convenience.
Brianna, anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, so I actually, to Kaz's point, the inorganic growth he is talking about is we're in the midst of acquiring a bank, and that's with our partners out on the West Coast, and we are very much looking forward to how this technology helps drive additional volume for our customers, a larger customer base, and I think it tends to be a bit cyclical, right? When you have inorganic growth by, for example, acquiring a customer, then that leads to a lot of organic growth internally around the technology needs to service those customers, where you're potentially able to cross-sell customers into deepening their relationship with an organization. So it's really a cyclical process for us. So I think Kaz did a really great job, but I just wanted to add in that as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So this is something I'm interested in, just based on the discussion, is can we talk a little bit about the investments? Community banks, smaller credit unions, smaller FIs, they only have so much they can contribute, when it comes to their digital strategy. How much is BMO investing in these initiatives? Can you provide a range? Is that okay?
Brianna, you want to take that question? Or
So it kind of depends. If you take the digital first strategy, it's a much broader number. If you're looking at just digital, we are constantly attempting to grow year over year. I will say it's never enough. We would always love to have more, but we try very hard to be creative in our use of the funds that we do get in order to make the highest power investment for the biggest return that we can provide for our customers.
Thank you.
and just like from another perspective, I would say that BMO does like some significant investments on their digital platform year on year. And we have like a large technology team, which like make sure that our platform is like consistently rated top notch, like on Android as well as iOS.
Yeah. It can be expensive. There's a lot of opportunity out there for FIs, and so just sharing that, I really appreciate that, because from some research that we had done here at Bank Director, I feel like community banks, from the respondents that we received, smaller community banks are setting aside, about $1 million annually. We don't see that changing, even with what's happened of late with the industry. So their strategic investments are still there for technology. I think everybody recognizes it. It's just, what do we do and how do we approach it? So with that, how did Agent IQ fit into these goals? We talked about, you looked at competition, you looked at what others were doing, you looked at what your customers were asking for. How did Agent IQ fit into these? And one of the questions that came in along that same line is, looking at smaller technology companies that maybe aren't as well known as others. Like, what did that look like for you all? I don't know who wants to start with that.
Sure. So you see, there are a lot of smaller companies, and maybe they are the right-sized companies to bring innovation. Okay, a lot of large companies are not accelerators. So having said that, when we were looking at this product with Soren and his team, one of the important factors was like time to market. The other important factor was that it should be able to support multiple different technology platforms. For instance, it should work equally well on the desktop application versus Android platform versus iOS platform, and it should not be like too complex to move from from solutioning point of view from one platform to another. So Agent IQ exactly had something which like fits our needs from that perspective, uh, like a scalable product. It can like scale up to any volume depending upon like what our customers are doing on the internet. Okay, highly resilient, and like really a very fast integration both on the web platform as well as the mobile platform. So having said that, I believe we really feel like uh, uh, great that we were able to get this partnership moving and have like a working product now with the digital app.
And Brianna, expanding on that just a little bit more, managing the business and technology risk of partnering with a smaller company, and Agent IQ, how do you manage through that?
So I think for us, actually, one of the things that I personally thought was very nice about looking at someone that was a bit smaller, because I've worked with a lot of different providers when it comes to chat over the years. And we, even at BMO, had a different provider in the past that we chose to not re-engage with. So it was really, to Kaz's point, like evaluating the vendor that could meet us with the needs that we had when it came to the business objectives, right? And so it was looking for a vendor that could be flexible, that had a unique set of tools that they were willing to provide. So really tried to drive around who could best meet the objectives when it came to the big subset of all of the asks that came from all of our different departments. And one of the more unique ones was actually our CEO walked into a bank and was like, why can't I have the X? And I didn't know how to solve for that quite yet in the moment when he asked the question. And looking down the line at the functionality that Agent IQ was able to provide, I knew it wouldn't be the first thing that we went out into the market with, but it would be something that we could look at piloting down the road should we have a successful partnership. And so that was one that really I was looking for, a vendor that could be flexible and meet our needs based off of kind of the unique way that we build and drive digital at BMO, at least within the US.
Thank you. Thank you. We got lots of great questions coming in, and I'll keep moving those through this conversation, and hopefully get to all of them. So Soren, can you talk a little bit now? We've kind of set the stage. What exactly did Agent IQ deploy for BMO? What was it specifically? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely, Michelle. And I think first and foremost, I want to go back to what Brianna said before. The objective was to create a frictionless way of getting easy support for customers. And I think what was very refreshing about talking to Brianna, talking to Christoph early on was the thought, how do we make it easy for our customers to get answers? Christoph touched a little bit about it before. It's about engaging and enabling the ability to engage with your bank like you would engage with anybody else in the world. We don't have these simple transactional conversations. We have continuous conversations. So what we have helped BMO enable is to allow the customers to have one long ongoing conversation with their bankers, to have the ability to reach out to the bank, not only during office hours, but to reach out during, in the middle of the night, get response to simple questions using AI-assisted virtual assistants or AI-powered virtual assistants, but also when it gets beyond those AI virtual assistants, routing you back to a human, building on the context of the previous conversation. I think what was very important in our deployment was that the foundation of the platform is a human-human platform. AI is, and Brianna was very clear with us early on, we are not here to remove people. BMO wants customers to talk to BMO. But if I'm talking to Brianna and I'm having very meaningful conversations with her, that's excellent. But if I ask Brianna at 2 o'clock in the morning, by the way, Brianna, what's my routing number? We don't need Brianna to answer that. We can invoke a virtual assistant for that. What has been important is also the modalities of delivering the service, because if you think about how the customer engages BMO, there are different needs. If you're in the middle of an online account opening process, the help you need is very, very different than if you're thinking about refinancing your house, or if you're thinking about managing your wealth portfolio. So the platform and the service was designed to create very tailored customer journeys depending on where's the customer right now, what are they seeking to address. Should this, for example, as I mentioned before, I may have a multi-month, multi-year engagement with Brianna within my authenticated space where Brianna is able to help me and BMO is able to help me as I mature in my, for example, financial stability, whereas I don't need that in an account opening, or I may require something else as I move through my journey as a wealth management customer. So I think that idea of creating very specific journeys and then having the ability to deploy AI to help not only, of course, the customer, but also the banker, and having the ability to identify, select specific bankers, escalate and de-escalate conversations as needed, video co-browsing, take it back to chat. So I think really rethinking the way we tend to think about customers as coming through a channel or being digital customers, instead stepping back and saying, how do we engage as human beings?
I love that. I love that thought process. And I've seen, of course, I've got to see the product and what Agent IQ has developed. I think it's just amazing, especially as a past banker. Brianna, on that note, it made me think, so what's next for BMO as it relates to chat? And what does that look like as the platforms continue to evolve?
Yeah, so we've actually had a pretty significant growth since we've launched. We launched actually in January. And so since then, we have done a tremendous amount of work in getting more and more agents comfortable with leveraging chat. That was a net new skill set for some of these folks. We are continuing to tag pages for the secured experience, as well as our new account opening process, so that we are able to answer and solve problems for customers in real time in process where they don't have to interrupt what they're doing digitally. And really looking to drive additional customer segments, line of business segments that may have access to chat and interacting with their customers. And then eventually, I think this stems from a broader hope of driving really something akin to a virtual branch, a virtual banker type experience, where I'm more engaged with an individual, much like what Soren had mentioned, but it's with our contact center folks and not in a traditional walk into a branch segment. We don't have branches in all 50 states as of yet. And so how are we able to drive a similar in-person, very personalized experience through a digital technology?
And then how are the two of you, Cost and Brianna, how are you implementing new enhancements? Are you rolling these out all in phases? I think you may have touched on it a little bit, but when you push them live, are you pushing it all live at once to clients? What does that look like?
So we have like a state-of-art deployment methodology or a strategy, and we are on blue-green architecture. So what that means, that our latest releases do not go to the customer directly, but they are rolled out in a very controlled fashion. And they go to the beta users first. And we like monitor those new capabilities, how they are being used by internal like BMO employees and the external beta users. And once we are comfortable, then we do a full launch to the customer base. And again, when we do a full launch, we go in phases. So we first do a web desktop application launch with a fast follower by mobile launch.
And so going a step further on that, Cost, for Agent IQ, what was that technology integration? I'm going to get tongue tied here. Technology integration. What was that like for you all? Were there challenges? How did you resolve those between BMO and Agent IQ? What did that look like?
So we used like one of the integration methodologies, which is quite standard in industry, which is a single sign-on integration using like an industry standard token, secure token to have the connectivity. And like any implementation, there are always some execution nuances, right? And both the like teams, technology teams, were working very closely, looking at each and every like nuance on a daily basis through daily stand-ups. Like Brianna mentioned, we are like a pure agile shop. So all the execution nuances were either resolved within the team, or if they needed further help, they were like escalated or bubbled up a level higher, and the adequate help and support was provided to resolve the impediments.
So building on that, we got a question, Brianna. I think maybe you could take this one from one of the viewers. Being a $16 billion bank that embraces in-person service, it's been difficult to drive the point that digital is not a competitor to personal service, but rather an augmenter. And I think you've touched and talked about that. What do you recommend to get past any cultural roadblocks between the technology, Soren, which he's a great guy, like so easy to work with, and BMO? How do you bridge that gap there?
So it's going to depend on the person or the cultural challenge you're trying to address, right? Oftentimes, if you go with a broad stroke approach, you're going to miss folks. You're going to not hit out on what their big concern is. And so I would say that probably the concern or the pushback you're going to get from the call center is going to be vastly different than what like the head of the operations department is going to be, right? They've got different needs and different asks. So you really have to break down where you're getting the friction is coming from, and then looking at driving an example that's maybe very specific. So I had a great fortune in the sense that our contact center colleagues were really driving to co-own this with us. They really wanted a way to actually close that gap. They felt like they weren't being as supportive to customers when it came to the conversation over the phone versus what they could do potentially online. And so it was showing them how they could be efficient, where we were closing a gap, how Agent IQ had video technology, which actually makes it very personal. And so it was enabling the technology. If you're going to, for example, like an operations group and working through where digital is helping to drive that, I would hold up a different example around how this is driving efficiency for the company and reducing paper, and the ease of getting data to customers in a very quick way that maybe is removing a manual process. And so you have to tailor the message to the friction point in the group that's raising it.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So Soren, we've talked a lot about the bank working with you. What has it been like for you working with a large institution, the Agent IQ team? Can you talk a little bit about that for our viewers?
Absolutely. And as said, even though Agent IQ has been around since 2015, we are a smaller company, especially in the context of the 8th biggest bank in the US. So it is in many ways a dream come true to work with someone like BMO, especially as we understood the questions and the way BMO was thinking about this potential partnership. It is also a daunting task, right? You do not know what you're going to run into. I say one of the things that helped us a lot was, again, what Christoph shared before, the technology team's approach to solving problems. We've been fortunate that we have a technology team that's very reactive. We're an agile shop, of course. We're a small business. But having open conversations about how can we get to, as Brianna mentioned before, how can we get to the MVP? How can we provide the fundamental capabilities on the timeline that we want to deliver also? But what does phase 2, 3, and 4 look like? And having that freedom to, instead of saying, well, Agent IQ, we expect you to have everything baked and hand us the SDK and we don't want to talk to you. Really changing that engagement model to say, well, why don't we talk 2 or 3 times a week, or during our preparation for Go Live, we're talking daily and talk about both what is a must have, but also what would be nice to have. Because if the question is not asked, as you know, when we get more business focused, it becomes difficult to understand how technically challenging is the request. And what we found works really well is if we let the smart people answer the question, if we ask the technology team, sometimes we get surprised and say, well, I can have that done by the end of the day. So I think what has been, BMO is a very large organization, but also BMO has behaved like a much smaller organization than we anticipated, and have been in no way dogmatic, which have been having spent 8 to 10 years in mobile banking payment has been incredibly refreshing, very different to, very candidly, what I had expected.
Very nice. Very nice. So with that, like, what has been some of the early results of the partnership? What are you seeing? Brianna, you touched a little bit. You said it launched in January. Like, what are the results? It's not been quite 6 months. We're just first half of the year, just wrapped up Q1. What have the results been thus far?
Yeah, so Soren, I will say that warmed my heart a little bit that we weren't like the big banks, so thank you. Nothing like being told that you operate like a smaller shop to make a digital person's heart warm, so thank you. I would say for us, the results have actually been really very positive, and we've seen that in a number of ways. We've gotten agent efficiency around the number of chats that they've been able to take, and we've been monitoring that and working very closely with our colleagues in the contact center around the skill sets that they are driving and obtaining when they're answering customers' calls. We have seen actually in the number of chats that come through, close to a 40% self-service through chat deflection. In servicing those questions, and it actually really speaks well to what Soren was talking about with this example with the routing number. If we're able to help them stay off a phone call, which all of us, or at least me personally, would not like to do if at all possible, and stay within your channel, but answer those questions that you maybe were struggling with, that's a far better experience than waiting in a queue and getting to an agent and then asking that question. But even with the remaining 60% of the customers, I actually do talk with an agent. The responsive have been significantly positive. We've seen a significant drop in our content, our secured messages. So that's where I can email correspond with a contact center agent or a branch associate, and that's very one-sided, and it takes some time, and that has almost completely dropped off the map in terms of the volume that we are seeing from customers, which I think shows a large testament to the customer's need for quick real-time answers and actually looking for a level of engagement beyond what they were able to do just digitally. And we've seen even positive results when it comes to things like our ability to show up well when it comes to industry reports. Chat is measured when it comes to ranking us against our competition, and this is helping close a key gap for us.
Nice. Very good to hear. So Kos, what's next? What are you working on?
So a lot of good things like in pipeline. Okay. So like Brianna said, we measure ourselves against like the industry standards, and we have like a competitor analysis. So there are a lot of like items which we pick from there. And I believe there was a question which was like around how do we get all the innovative ideas, or how we track it. So we are coming up like a formal process, like creating a Kaizen box within the entire bank, where you can drop like your needs, your ideas. We will look into it. And like Kaizen word comes like, it's a Japanese word, uh, which like is revolving around innovation. So having said that, there is plenty uh, for us for next year. Plus, I believe specifically from the technology stack point of view, we are like trying to get some investment to take it to the next level. Uh, and Hopefully, like we will see more modernization and more advancement on the technology side.
I really like that idea. I haven't heard that, where people could just send you like these are things that we see that we need. These are things that our customers are asking for. Consider this. I bet that's a really long list.
Yeah.
So we're coming up at the end of our time. I can't believe how fast this conversation has gone, but I'd like to take a moment and ask each of you, and so I'm going to end with you. What three things are helpful for our audience to consider if they're wanting to improve, transform their digital customer experience? What are three things that you would like to share with our group, knowing that there are various asset sizes and even both tech and banks attending today? Brianna, I'll start with you.
Three things. So I think so for me, it's really getting a crisp set of understanding of what it is you're trying to do, and not being afraid to dig in and ask the hard questions up front. A lot of times you tend to throw spaghetti at the wall when it comes to projects and the objective behind what you're doing. And I don't think that leads to the most optimal results. So continuing to ask the why and what need this is filling is a big one. I think the second thing is really knowing where your individual strengths are from an organization. Is it build? Is it buy? Is it a subset of both? And where you can leverage that to really accelerate what you're doing and know how best to operate within your organization. And then I would say finally, my personal drive, or what I like to do a lot, and I think it has served us well. Kos can disagree with me, but is knowing how to think creatively to drive a solution. The most straight-lined approach typically is the one with the most hurdles. And so if you're able to look at where you're able to accelerate because you've laid some groundwork here, or you're thinking creatively about financing here, and you're able to think very broadly in how you drive to a solution or where you're getting your solution, I think you get a better end result overall because you're being more inclusive.
Good thoughts. Good thoughts. Costs.
So like where we started, digital first, customer first mindset, right? So a lot of our like customer feedback really constitutes where we want to move and what we want to build. A lot of that feedback comes from, say, the Apple Store or the Play Store, like where people are putting in their feedback, rating our apps, what they are really liking versus what they are not liking. Uh, so we build what is like really needed for our customers and what is the overall direction like from the bank in terms of like customer segment. For instance, like if our focus is to grow the wealth customer segment, uh, our probably next approach would be to launch Agent IQ with like agents to support the wealth customers. Meaning, can our wealth advisors be on Agent IQ to support our wealth customers? The second principle, which like in technology, which we follow, that everything you build, okay, it might be complex in the background, but it should be very intuitive for our customers. Okay. So like anyone, any background should be able to use that technology uh, really like in a easy way, and it should not become like a burden to them. And thirdly, whatever we build, it always needs to be like uh, super solid, like from fraud point of view. We don't want our customers to lose money because of like we launching something in the internet space, right? We want to make sure that it's highly secure, highly resilient, and it is scalable. So we build with that like mindset and try to deliver the best to our customers.
That's what all banks are trying to do, right? Deliver the best to their customers. So Soren, additional thoughts you'd like to add there, the three things you feel like would be helpful for the audience to know as they're considering, continuing to transform their digital customer experience.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving me a little extra time, Michelle. You know I need it. The three things I would think about is be very clear on how you as a financial organization are relevant. Why do your customers come to you? Why do they stay with you? And I think very often we see a lot of strategic initiative being pushed aside because, well, we're going to do a bill pay upgrade, or we're going to spend the next 2 years doing a core upgrade. Do your customers care? So be very clear on why do your customers come to you and why do they stay. Secondly, and that goes back to what I've said before, what do your customers want? Do they care about the technology? Is it important to ask Siri about my balance, or do I want to talk to a human? So what does the customers really want? And I think in that case, in that context, it can be valued to abstract from what we know about banking and think about what do we want when we talk to our gardener, our internet provider, our mechanic? How do we interact? And the third thing I would say, and I think your brand and Costa have done that incredibly well, start, I won't say small because nothing's small with BMO, but start pragmatically. We could have spent 2 or 3 years planning and beard stroking on what is the right use case. Get started. Select a small customer segment, select a small number of bankers, set yourself up to be agile. So classic Denham cycle, deploy something, see what customers respond to it. I can guarantee you what looked beautiful on paper is never going to be how customers read it. So let's, instead of trying to get it perfect, let's get out there and let's be agile. Let's put ourselves in a position where we can learn and refine, and continue to upgrade.
I think that's a great way to end the conversation. Soren, is there anything else you wanted to add? I know Agent IQ has a lot on its plate. When I asked the what else is next question, is there anything else you'd like to share with the group before I wrap up our conversation today?
I'd say the one thing we're really excited about, I think ChatGPT has had a lot of conversation, a lot of airtime the last couple of months. I think that's some really interesting aspects. I'm still in two minds about what a real impact to, in particular, community banks, because well, ChatGPT is amazing at aggregating enormous amounts of data. But if I'm a $1 billion bank in Oklahoma, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my bank information. What I'm excited about is the current capability of very, very pragmatic use of AI, but also the next steps around that. So thinking not only about AI as chatbots, because I feel that's a little bit missing the point. Think about AI not as artificial, but augmented intelligence. And how do you augment a human relationship, not only from the perspective that I can get simple answers, but in my example of working with Brianna, how do you use AI to make Brianna's life easier? How do we also use AI to make the leadership's life easier by seeing if we're having 50,000 conversations a month or a week, what do customers care about? So think about how can AI be used in slightly different ways than we have done in the past? And I'm very excited about the next journeys we're taking our clients on, our partners on, and also, of course, start looking more aggressively at the sentiment analysis. Because once you can have a conversation, it's nice also to be able to start looking at how did the customer feel in terms of the words they used and so on.
Well, you teed it up perfectly. We did not plan this, but we're going to continue an AI conversation with Agent IQ and Brianna May the 16th. Bank Director is actually hosting a webinar to take it a step further, Soren, and talk about AI and what that means to banks and newer forms of AI and what they should consider. So hopefully all of you out there will tune in for the encore, I guess, of this conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with the three of you today and just get myself more educated on what's happening with chat and with the digital strategies banks are considering. So Matt, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I don't see any other questions in the queue. I've really enjoyed this morning.
This has been fantastic. Yes, thank you so much, Michelle. You drove a great conversation. Brianna, Kostib, Soren, of course. Thank you guys for being here. And of course, thank you everybody for attending today. Hope you learned something, and we appreciate your time. And we'll see you hopefully at the continuation next month. Take care, everybody.